Hello everyone, Larry Satchwell here. I almost forgot to videotape this. I'm making some rolling pins for my 5 daughters and daughter-in-law, one daughter-in-law, for Christmas. I start off here with a baseball blank. You're not going to get any better wood than that. This is maple. It is quarter sawn, and you can't get a blank cheaper than that. They were on sale at Woodcraft. So what I've done now is I've just cut a tendon here on all of them to go into this chuck. And the next thing I'll be doing is drilling a hole. Got the drill running at 500 RPMs, and I'm just going to slowly advance this drill bit into it. Keep bringing it. I'll keep bringing it back out to clean it out. Probably thinking that drill bit's not going to go all the way through there. Well, I've got this longer one, and this tape is marked so it's well over halfway. What that other hole did was make this go in here straight as possible. So I can just follow that. Now, this doesn't have very many threads on it, so you have to keep taking it out, cleaning it up. And I didn't take time to make a handle for it. I'm just holding it with my vice grips. Go one more plunge here. Now I'm going to turn this around and do exactly the same thing on the other end. I'm turning these handles for the rolling pins out of thermally heat treated ash. And this stuff is really strange. From my understanding, they heat this stuff without oxygen until the sails collapse on each other. It's very, works up very well. And it doesn't absorb any water. So even if they would accidentally put this thing in the dishwasher, I think it would be better served. I tried making these 2 at a time, and that failed. So here's what I've been doing. I've been making them in pairs. This is the pair of the last one I just turned, and what I do is get a rough cut here of about what size that is. It's a little bit small. I leave myself plenty of room for error, and then I mark that. This one's marked at 7/8, and that's what the very first one was. And I also get this one ready, and that needs to tighten up just a little bit. Too much. And so that's ready. And then after I center this in here, the next thing I do is drill a 1/4 inch hole to accommodate my stainless steel handle. I do that even before it's square, and I'm going to turn this at 500. So I'm going to drill this in. Even if I get a little wobble here, I've got plenty of room. When you work with this, it smells like you're working with wood that's been charred. Kind of like when you do a char wood look on barn wood. I've also found that this stuff tends to rust your steel. So I cleaned it off really good and then spray it with some WD-40. And then I put a live center in here. Put my shield on. Turn the lathe up to 1500. And use a roughing gouge to rough it out. You can see it really shines up nice. The thing you can't do is sand it with traditional sanding. When you like turn the lathe on and run the sandpaper, it really scratches it. When it comes time to sand this, I just sand with the grain. I usually start at about 120. This handle is 4 inches long. So this handle has a match. And what I do here, they're all very, very similar, but they're all different. So I just take this right here and mark that spot. Then I mark where the widest part of the barrel is, and then the end. I do most of that with the gouge because I'm not very good left-handed with the skew. I'm pretty pleased with that. So what I'll do now is I will actually use my 80 grit gouge because I don't want to take any chances of getting a catch. I've been really lucky so far. And you'll see how the sawdust is so heavy it doesn't even fly up, it just sinks. I'm going to turn the lathe down to 750. All right, so now instead of running it with the lathe on, simply sand it straight. And those lines come out really fast. But I've gone through all the grits. I'm going through 80, 100, 120, 150, 180, 220, 220, 240, 320, 400, 600, 800, and 1,000. And then I'll use some Ultra Sheen to clean it up further. And then I'll part it off and I'll sand the ends. All these ends look like this right now, and I'll show you how I do that when it's time for that. But right now, This is what I do. I get up at the top here and get those lines out of there with my 80 grit. I work the barrel, and then I work the little fishtail here. This is not a fast process for me, but when the camera's not on, I turn on Pandora Christmas music and sand away. So I've gone through all the grits, and this is what it looks like after that. And I've had this can of Ultra Sheen for a long time. It just takes a little bit. And I like to put it on with my finger with the lathe not running. I've got way too much on here. All right, let me turn the lathe on. I'm going to run it at 1500. So now this is also going to get some polish afterwards, but that's what it looks like after you've polished it up. All right, so I mentioned I make these things in pairs. So now I take this little gadget and put it on here. So that I get an exact mirror image of that. So now I'll back off the lathe a little bit, or back off the tailstock a little bit. Turn this on to 250. I'll hold it the other way so you can see what I'm doing. All I'm doing is dragging the saw the opposite direction, and it comes right off. So that's what this one looks like. So here's the finished pair. I've been keeping these in baggies so I know which pairs go where. I'll do that same with here. So now I've got a sander set up in here with a nice foam pad, and now I need to finish off these ends. Did I skip this one? I don't have a buffing wheel, so this is just over the sander I was just finished using. I just put an old sweatpants over and loaded it with some Triple E, and that's what the results look like on all of these. I just ran it at 700, and it still has that sponge under there. I've been working away here and realized I hadn't videotaped any of this. I've got the blank back in here. It's not completely in round here. The holes did not exactly match up. So what I'm doing now is trying to get them, just get it straight across. I was worrying about measuring them, but I just gave up on that. And I just want to make it flat across here. And as long as it's running true, that'll work. I've got my fan here because I use that as part of the dust extraction. I've got a 80 grit sandpaper on this MDF board, and I'm just going to run the lathe here at 500 to see how I'm doing. So it's really not bad. coming off pretty well even all across there. I've got a little high spot here, a little high spot there. I'm going to switch over to the skew. I don't want to jinx myself, but I've been doing really well on the first 4. Haven't had any catches. Lathe back to 1500. So I've assembled one of these already. I had them soaking for about 3 to 6 hours, a couple of them overnight, in mineral spirits, food grade mineral spirits. Get that at Kroger's for like under $3 a bottle. Took 3 bottles to go over the top, and I put them in just a dollar store shoebox. Now I've got this screw here that's just a little bit bigger, and I mean just barely. In fact, it's the same size, 1/4 inch, but I'm trying to score the inside of this handle a little bit so that it will hold more of the epoxy. I'm using a 15-minute epoxy because the guy at the hobby shop said it was, I forget what percentage, but quite a bit stronger than 5-minute epoxy. So make sure there's nothing in there. And I got some dust, so I know I scored it a little bit. These holes are 2.5 inches deep. I have measured, I'm going to put the handles in 2 1/4 or so, at least on the first one, and then the next one I'll make some adjustments, but I want to mark 2 1/4 on this first handle. And then I've got 4 of these super long pipe cleaners twisted together here, and I'm going to clean this out. Try to get all that excess oil out of there. And I'm just going to run that through there one time. So that's going to go right there. I'm going to dip this end into some acetate to make sure I've got all the oil off of it. That goes right there. This is 1-for-1 epoxy. You've got quite a long working time with this. You can stir this and play with it for as much as 10 minutes, the instructions said. I don't intend on doing that. I'm using just a long sliver of wood here because I want to get this down in there as far as I can. It's not so critical on this handle, but when you're assembling the other one, it certainly is. So I don't know if you remember which end I dipped in acetate, but I don't. So well, I guess this is the side that's marked, so that's the one. I'll just do it again. Now, it doesn't want to go in there that last 1/4 inch. So I'll just use my persuader here. And that's why I only have it marked for 2 1/4. That last 1/4 inch is probably packed with epoxy, and that's why it doesn't want to go down. So I can move along here. I'm going to keep these separate. I've got another one in my box over here. And I think when I made a statement when I was turning these that I didn't measure what size they were. I made sure the barrel was as accurate as I could, but I didn't measure them so they're all the same size. Like this one is quite a bit bigger than that one. And the reason for that is because some of them had a knot, a small knot or a bark. One of them had I think it was this one that's small, had somewhat of a bark inclusion on it. And I just tried to work past that to make sure I could get a nice clean finish. So we'll keep these separate handles and the assembly just goes on. I'm going to let this sit for at least 15 minutes. The full strength comes up in, about an hour, but then I can assemble it, and when it's time for that, I'll show you. It's really important to put this thing, I think, through the acetate once it's gone through that barrel, because there's probably still some mineral oil residue in there. I'm doing both at the same time. I'm on my last two. I've been really proud of myself because I remembered to put all the washers on. This hole is 5/16. This washer fits into there, and this is a 1/4 inch washer. This one came from Granger, and this one came from Lowe's. So it's ready for the handle. And that last 1/4, 1/2 inch really snugs it in there. And failure. Almost no harm done. I think the reason this failed, I had too much epoxy in there. So close, so close. But now I'll make a new handle. And this one is in there for good, so it's got to match this one. Well, girls, here they are. Did the best I could. Don't put them in the dishwasher. Just wash them with warm water. They're patterned after your mom's, and when she saw it, she said they look small, but your mom's is the smallest one of them all. You have my lifetime guarantee. That means if I'm still alive and it breaks, I'll fix it. After that, you're on your own, girls. I love you. I'm going to give these out at random. I don't know who's going to get what, but maybe it's something you can pass down to your children. Merry Christmas.